You know, paper mache boxes have been around for a long time.
Right, but we're going to show you some fun new ways to use them.
We are.
Come play with us.
We have two shapes.
We have a round one.
Right, about 7.5 inches wide.
Right.
And this is the oval, as you can see, about 5 by 7.5, and they're both about 3 inches tall.
That's right.
So and the lids come off.
The lids come off like that.
Exactly.
And we're going to show you how to decorate the outside of them, and we should probably start by looking at one.
Yeah, so we're going to take those and turn them into these, but we'll do it one at a time.
Oh, let's do that.
Okay, so this is using paper and Dazzles. And this is using Nona's Garden and also the on butterfly wings Dazzles.
And it's just a beautiful look accomplished very simply just by covering that top with paper. And let me show you real quickly how to do that. So I've got the border paper for Nona's Garden. I've got my box. I can actually take the lid off or leave it on there, whatever you want to do. Turn it over and turn your paper over. I know that I want it down in this corner, so that's the corner that I'm going to put it on. I'm going to place it right up there, up close to the edge, and then I'm just going to trace around with my pencil. Do you see how labor intensive that is? Then I remove that and I go ahead and cut that piece out.
Now, if you don't want to do it kind of blind a little bit, you could leave this face up and do your tracing and then just cut within that line.
There's two reasons why I prefer to do it on the back. Totally do it on the front if you want, but if you do it on the back, then it's so easy to see that pencil mark to cut around. Plus, you don't have to erase the pencil mark from the edges when you're done off of that cut circle. So there are your reasons. Here it is all cut and ready to go, but we want to do one more step before we place it on the top of that box. I've got a cutting mat, I've got this, I've got my retractable pen knife, and we took some of the Dazzles and we backed them on here. So we could have just placed them, but there was this neat idea of tucking it underneath those roses.
Kind of incorporating it into the artwork.
Right, and I'm sure that you've seen this before, seen some of the work we've done, especially on scrapbooking. You can cut into these flowers just a little bit. I'm just cutting around the edges and really pretty quickly. I'm going to close that up. Love that about those pen knives. And then you can just tuck this underneath like so. So tuck that in place and do that with all of your other elements and then glue that onto the top of your box.
Now, one thing about the glue, I would recommend using a glue stick or the liquid glue. You really want to make sure that this is going to stay nice and sealed.
Absolutely.
Because it is going to be handled and the lid's going to be coming off.
And you can also put the paper on the edges. So go ahead and go around the edges, cut a strip that fits that, glue it in place, and then add those beautiful Dazzles. It's such an easy additional touch, and it is so pretty. So there's that. I also want to show you something on the sides here. There's that.
Okay.
And the side was actually inked, so there's just a little bit of difference in color between the way it starts out. If I hold those up, you can see that little bit of, it's a little bit
especially
more
down
uniform
at the bottom
in color, and that was because Susan took the color box, a cat's eye pigment ink pads, and so there are all of these different colors in these two sets, and they're listed on the gallery. And she took from this set, I think this is the silk and satin set, and she took this color here and she just applied that directly to the box. I would remove the lid and you just go around and apply it generally all over the box. And then you take from the other set, she used the copper, so it has kind of these metallic looks sort of like this, and she took the copper and edged it along the bottom, so you can see just a little bit of a shading there, and that's just really easy to do. She did heat set that afterwards with a heat gun because pigment ink can take a little while to dry.
And then just added more Dazzles into the darker area. Now we have a lot of papers that have this border treatment or this corner treatment.
Right.
So it will be fun to play and see, just in case Nona's Garden isn't quite to your taste.
Right, choose any color you like.
Now we also did the oval one. Now in this one, we elected to use a specialty paper. And this is a textured paper. It's got stripes on it. It's a very 3D, and as we'll get in a little close.
It's embossed.
Right.
Right, and it's just got that beautiful effect, and the embossing is even textured. And it's so nice. It's got kind of a nice feel. It reminds me of a really opulent kind of a wallpaper, a little bit.
And so this has been used on the front. So you're going to do the same thing. Trace it, cut it, and glue it down.
And then you get to add this beautiful paper tole on there, and that's been foam taped in place so it's lifted up.
And I know if you're seeing this on the paperwishes.com website, you're seeing the paper tole down below. But if you're watching this on YouTube, this is what it looks like. And you can just pop them out. They're die cut, foam tape them. You're going to get a 3D look.
Right, they stack and layer really nicely. But I also love this additional touch. First of all, the box was inked with a stays-on ink, and you can do that directly from the ink pad. Get that nice and black, let it dry just a few minutes, and then you can get this nice little strip, and that comes straight from that textured paper.
It's just one of the stripes. In fact, this is called striped textured paper.
And then one little addition of that paper tole, and that just adds such a beautiful finishing touch. And that's so cute. This is going to be great for little heirlooms and things like that.
Or
Would be a nice
jewelry, or
box.
anything's good for chocolate.
Great
now,
gift.
Susan did use stays on, but you could use any black ink pad would be fine.
True, because it's paper. It's going to fit on there. I do like going off the edge of the paper on top too. It gives a nice effect.
I just wanted to show you, we do have another textured paper. This is Leaf. It has the same idea. It is this deeply embossed and raised images. So got a couple of options for this.
And these ink up really well.
Yes.
You can use inks, you can use
Inka-Gold.
Inka-Gold, all kinds of elements to color that in some really, in fact, I think you'll see, if you check out the product videos, you'll see some of that.
You will. Now, earlier, we did a video on the distress oxide.
That's right.
Looks like this. Well, Gail decided to do it on one of the boxes.
To transfer that same technique.
Yes.
So if you look at that webisode, you're going to see a craft mat like this. And what we did is we pressed each of those distress oxide ink pads onto the craft mat, spritzed it with a little water, and then take that box and just turn it on its side here so you can see, and just sort of rolled it in that mix of ink and water, and it just creates this beautiful effect. And just like in that webisode, like I did on that card, you'll do a layer of color and then you'll dry it. And I used a heat gun on here to dry this. It didn't warp the paper mache
No, it didn't.
at all.
That's
I was
nice.
really happy with that. And then do the next layer, spritz it with a little water while you're working.
And if you didn't see that webisode on paperwishes.com, just go into the search and type in distress oxide. It will take you right to it.
Right.
And you weren't done there.
Sure.
Had to do something more.
Had to take that beautiful birds on a branch stencil and use the pearlescent embossing paste. Now what this does is it's not see-through, it's white all the way through, but it has this great pearlescent effect. But it did something a little different when I put it on this lid. So I just held that stencil in place. I used my palette knife and just spread a thin layer of the paste through those open areas. And since the Distress Oxide inks are a water reactive, even after they're dry, that got a little wet and it picked up those colors and pulled them right through.
So I can see the different colors that were absorbed into the embossing paste.
You can still see the pearlescence, so it's nice and bright white, but when you turn it, it's almost like it melds into the picture.
It's almost like abalone shells.
Yeah,
Really pretty.
It's just an incredible look. Now, if you would prefer to have that pearlescent ink, you know, a solid color without lifting those colors, you can put a spray sealer on the box before you do the embossing on top.
You can, but this is so pretty. So you can see that we've got lots of ideas for taking these plain boxes and turning them into some beautiful, beautiful
something spectacular.
Looks. Yes.
And think of all the ways you can use these boxes. I just think it's a beautiful look.
And all the products you can use on them.